Hello everybody, welcome back to Retro Computing Ranch. Today we're going to continue on with our Kaypro project. Now you will need to look back at the previous Introduction to Greaseweazle video to get information on how to set up the software. We're going to set up a little bit more software today, but that's going to be so that we can emulate a Kaypro here in the office. The Kaypro 4 that I've been working on is next door in the RV, and I don't want to have to walk back and forth. So we're going to set up a Kaypro emulator so that we can test our images as we get them down. And once everything is all working and we know things are good, then we can put them on a USB, plug them into our GoTech next door, and get them loaded up on the actual Kaypro 4, and we'll know that they work over there. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get set up with the Kaypro emulator. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to get a few pieces of necessary software. If I could type today. So we need to make sure we have Python 3, and we need to make sure we have cargo-all. Now I've already got them installed here, so it'll just say that they're currently up to date after I authenticate. Oh, I have to actually specify that I want to install them. Strange. Well, regardless, I know that it's here. I know that it's installed. I did it while I was testing through the process. So now we're going to do a git clone and https github.com/Ivan izag, and it is Kaypro. So let's go ahead and clone this down into our home directory so that we can follow the compile process. So it's all cloned down. Now we can cd into the Kaypro directory. Alright, now let's pull a directory listing, and it looks like, yeah, we kind of have things here. So this is deployed with Cargo. Cargo is another kind of package manager, mainly for Python stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a cargo space build dash release. And that will go ahead and give us a target directory with a release directory inside of it that contains our executable. So we're just running through the process now. Now, of course, there are issues with emulators. So in previous videos where we've talked about emulators, specifically the Bendix G15 emulator, it tries to be cycle accurate. For the most part, emulators, most of them, don't try to be cycle accurate. They just run flat out as fast as they can all the time. You will run into problems, like for instance with basic games that are dependent on the machine timing, and so they'll run way too fast. I'll show you that when we get a little further on in the process here. So we've got that done. So we can go into our disks directory, and I actually already have some of the Kaypro software copied in here. I'll show you what we've got, but I'm going to show you how to image Kaypro disks with the Greaseweazle and a physical floppy drive attached to my Linux machine here in just a moment. So let's go ahead and do that now. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and cd back to the top of our home directory, and then I have a Kaypro folder here that I created that already has one disk image in it, but we're going to create a new copy of that here in just a moment. So what I'm going to start with is I have a small pile here of disks. I'm probably not going to make you watch me image all of them, but we'll image a couple of them. So I have a My Favorite Utilities disk. I think this may be the one that we ran on the physical Kaypro a few weeks ago. Let's go ahead. I've got the Greaseweazle hooked up to a 48 track per inch double-sided, double-density drive. So we're going to go ahead and set this so we can get our image. Now, on Greaseweazle software, it currently does not support the Kaypro disks with a built definition. There are ways around that. I've noticed in the documentation for the project that they've added Kaypro support. It's not in the release yet because they've added it since the last release. So the next release should simplify this process a lot. We're going to go ahead and do a GW, and we'll do a help here so you can see what the options are. So if I do a GW info, it tells us that we're on version 1.22 of the host tools. If you're on a newer version of that, then check to see if you have Kaypro support built in, because this is the current version that does not have Kaypro support, but the next version should hopefully have Kaypro support. So let's do a GW read -- help, and that will tell us our format options and file suffixes that we have available. The way that we're going to get around this is by using the raw types. So on a 48 track per inch double-sided double-density disk or a single-sided double-density disk, we're going to use raw 250. So the way that we're going to do that is do a GW read -- format equals raw.250. It is shown up here in the list. We have raw 250, raw 500, and raw 125. Playing around with this, it seems like raw 250 gives me the best results. You'll just have to make sure that if you're doing this for a different type of system than a Kaypro, that you do some research to find out what size raw you need to use if there's not a machine definition, a format option, so to speak, for your disk. Now, going from here, we need to set a file name. So I'm going to call this my_fave_util.hfe. Now, HFE files are kind of a raw flux image. The GoTech understands HFE files. So if you put them on there, that should work. Now, the emulator wants IMG files. So we're going to have to do a conversion. Fortunately, in the last video where we were talking about the Greaseweazle, we set up HXC floppy emulator, which will handle the conversions. I think the Greaseweazle software might be able to do it too, but I like to do it from the graphical HXC floppy emulator, floppy converter, because I also like to be able to view a graphical layout of the disk image while I'm there. So now, since this is a double-sided, double-density disk, we need to specify the tracks and the heads that we want to get. Otherwise, we're going to end up running into issues. If we let it continue as if it was an 80-track drive, then the read will come out very strange, and you'll have a lot of head banging going on, which is not what you want. So let me see if I can remember how to do this. If I can't, we may have to go back and find a previous run where I've done this. It would be in my command archive. So we're going to do tracks equal C equal 0 through 39. I believe it's colon H equal 0 through 1. Now, if this is for a double-sided disk, head 0 and head 1. If you had a single-sided disk, it would just be head 0. Not sure if I have this right, but we're about to find out. All right, we're reading, and we're getting raw flux transitions from both sides of the disk. So let's let this continue. It's going to do 40 tracks, and then we will have our image. While I'm waiting, let me start the HXC floppy emulator. Okay. So we are getting close to having this done. Now, what I can do here is, let's see. Let me find where I'm at. Hold on just a second. Hey. Go on. My cat wanted some petting. Okay. They're such troublemakers, the little ones. All right, where was I? We're going to go into the Kaypro directory, and we're going to find our myfaveutil. We're going to drag this down, and we're just going to drag and drop. It will tell us we have 40 tracks, 2 sides. We can do track analyzer to get a view. Now, it looks like this may actually be a single-sided disk. We did get data, though. All right. Let's go ahead and export this as an IMG file. So we're going to select IMG file. We're going to need to go find the directory where we're storing our disks. What's going to make this easy to do is if we go in the Kaypro directory, into disks, and we store it here in this directory. And I'll show you why in just a few moments. All right. So we got that going. Let me open another command window here. Okay. So we're going to go into our Kaypro directory. And let me refresh myself here. That's right. So I'm going to CD into disks. There's a couple of ways you can do this. I like to go into the disks directory, and I can do a read here. So that shows us what we've already copied in. Now, to run the executable, since it's not in the system path, I'll do this, and so it's // and I'll tab twice, so I can see my target directory there, target release, and the executable name is Kaypro, so we tab completed to that, and now, if you just specify 2 disk names, the first one will be A, the second one will be B. So let's go ahead and do CPM 22 and ROM 232.img. The other one is the myfaveutil. We can tab complete to that. Now I'm going to hit enter. If it gives us an error, then we'll know we either didn't get a disk image or the disk image that we got is not meant for a Kaypro. Okay, so it looks like this one actually is meant for a Kaypro. So we're on our A drive, which is going to be our CPM disk. So as you can see, we've got that there. We go to B, we do a dir. Now, if it says no file, that's a blank disk, but we should get something back. And we didn't. Interesting. Okay, let's try going through this process again with a different disk and see what we get. Here we are. I'm going to eject this disk. So this may not be the same disk that we used before. I have 2 giant boxes of disks, so it's easy for things to get mixed up. This disk is labeled Extra Utilities for Kaypro. Drive is closed. I'm going to just use my up arrow, and I will just call this extra_util, and we'll define it the same way. So now we're pulling this image down. It's going to take just a few moments. We're limited by the physical speed of the hardware here. Almost done. There we are. So let's go back here. And now you can see we've got our extra util. So we'll bring our HXC floppy emulator back up. We'll copy and drag. And now you can see that this looks like this is a good copy of a double-sided disk. It's showing that we've got data in the read on both sides. Let's do OK. We'll export. And it seems like every time it defaults into the build directory for HXC floppy emulator, so you'll have to dig around to find what you want. All right, so we're in the correct directory. We need to select our IMG. We're going to save. We'll minimize these. All right, so now we're back here. I think we called that extra utils. There it is. And we can dir our A drive. It's the same thing. Let's go to our B drive and dir that. So now you can see that we actually got the contents of the disk here. So let's take a look. Let's do a du. So that is our disk utility. So as you can see, this program is working, and it looks like everything is good. I wonder if this was E for exit or Q for quit. Guess I should have paid attention. There we are. X for exit. All right. Let's take another look here. I don't know what any of these programs are. I guess I should have looked at that before we started. Let's see here. Let's take a look at fix.com. So it will display things in a weird way. This is actually software for a Osborne. How strange. And we're locked into the program. So we can exit the emulator by hitting F4. And we can arrow up just to reload the exact same thing. So it looks like these are probably generic CPM utilities. Let's see what Othello is. The game of Othello. Of course, I don't know how to play Othello. Let's go ahead and exit out of that. Now, speaking of playing, let's go here. So I'm going to tab twice. That's going to show me everything I have in here. Let me show you the issue with emulators. So I'm going to load my games disk. And we're going to go to our B drive. And as you can see, there's similar programs here to what we had when we were playing games on the physical Kaypro next door. So we were playing Aliens. And you saw how it played there. It played reasonably. Everything was fine. This game is not going to play correctly under the emulator because the emulator is running flat out as fast as it can. It's going to be practically unplayable. Let me show you. All right, so we can see our controls. We can see that we can select what game we want to play. So I've got, I can do Z and X. Actually, it's Z, X, and /. and space fires it. Okay, so if we tell it to that we want to play We Come in Peace, so it looks different, but then also it moves crazy because it is too fast. So you wouldn't want to play Aliens under the emulator, but we have verified that it works. So that's why you want to have the physical hardware. There are times where things are just not going to work right under an emulator. I know a lot of videos on my channel are about emulators. Emulators have their purpose, but there are times when you just have to have the physical hardware. This is one of those times. So let's go ahead and exit the emulator. Let's switch back over here to where we're doing our imaging. I will pull this disk, and we are going to set it aside. So this disk is called CPM Utilities Copy. I had trouble with this one earlier. This is what I was testing with, and it did not want to generate a working image. Let's see if we have that same problem again. I'm going to call it CPM underscore util underscore copy. Excuse me. All right, so now we are imaging this disk. Things look fairly normal. So all of this is, of course, bearing upon the fact that you have unknown floppies. You don't know how they've been stored. You don't know if they're for this system. So there's a lot of guesswork involved. There's a lot of testing involved, and that's fine. That's the reason why we have the tool set that we have, the Greaseweazle host tools, the Flux Engine software, the HXC floppy emulator, the Kaypro emulator, so that as we're going through, we can kick out the images that aren't working for us. Let's go ahead and we'll go here. What did I call that specifically? CPM util copy. You can see last time I called it CPM utils copy. So let's load the original one. And we can go to Track Analyzer, and it looks strange. Now, I don't know if this disk was stored incorrectly, or if it was erased, or if we just got a bad read. So let's load this fresh copy. It loaded correctly. We'll go to Track Analyzer, and as you can see, this time, it looks like we got at least a half-decent read. Now, you can see here that we've apparently got some bad sectors out of the read, and it's because the CRCs aren't matching. That happens sometimes. You might try a second or a third read quickly in a row and see if it manages to get everything correct. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. Let's go ahead, we'll export this into the disks directory as an IMG file. So this is CPM util copy. So CPM util copy. Okay, let's see if that loads. We're on our dir, our A drive. That worked. We're going to move to our B drive. We're going to dir that. And you can see that this time we did get a read on it. So let's see what we've got here. Maybe some menu software, some disk software, a utility to set our time, possibly an installer for WordStar. All right, let's try mass menu. Like I said, if I could type today. Okay, let's see here. So this is menu software. Okay, disk utilities, status utilities, baud rates, useful utilities. Let's see if we can get into status utilities. It says use the up arrow and down arrow keys to move the darkened bar, then press the right arrow key. Okay. To exit this menu, press escape. Ah, okay. So the other thing is the graphics are not quite right. We've run into that on other things here before. Okay, space on diskette. Enter the drive name, A or B. Let's do B. Bytes remaining on disk 82K. So it does work. It's just slightly off. See, we ended up in the wrong place on that one. So it can be confusing. But like I said, this does let us verify that the disks that we're reading are correct for Kaypro. Then we can take our HFEs or our IMGs, because I think the IMGs will work as well. We can put those on our USB drive that plugs into our Gotek, take them next door, and load them on our physical Kaypro 4 and use them from there. They should work as expected. All right, I think that is going to cover it for today. I'm being meowed at. I'm being requested to go probably feed the cats. That will cover it for today. I will run through and get everything imaged, and then we will take this software over to the Kaypro 4 next door, and we'll do some exploration in an upcoming video. I've been thinking about how I'm going to do this. I may start doing A videos and B videos, in the sense that A videos will be main project videos, B videos will be something else, maybe emulator videos, or I don't know yet. We'll just have to see how it goes. I do want to thank you for staying to the end, watching the whole video. If you found this helpful or interesting, make sure to hit like on your way out. Also share and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all of you. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.